Hello, BookTube. To coincide with August of Adventures, a new BookTube reading event taking place this coming August, Shandi Standfast, one of the event's creators, has created the Awfully Big Adventure book tag. Um, I'm getting it from his own original video, so I'll leave a link to Sean's original video in the show notes down below, as well as the link to the um, August of Adventures announcement video. Question number 1. Do you like your adventure stories fictional or real life, and why? I rather like both, I would think. Although I am much more familiar with fictional adventure stories than I am real life ones. So, as far as fictional adventure stories are concerned, I like the fact that they usually have some form of the fantastic, usually of a supernatural or quasi supernatural um, element. I'm a huge fan of fantasy. It's my favorite genre of fiction, so there's usually a heavy element of fantasy in my adventure stories. But even if they're not fantasy, there's still a little bit of the more than normal fantastic in them. Meanwhile, while I'm not as familiar with nonfiction adventure stories, which is something that maybe I could look into correcting in the next few months if I have the time for it, um, I like the fact that they can at times maybe uh, realize the fantastic in the purely natural. And I'm thinking of course, of books like, say, Underland by MacFarlane, one of my favorite nonfiction books from 2020 that I came out in 2019. And I'm looking forward to getting more of his work soon. Anyway, let's move on to question number 2. If you could follow in the footsteps of any explorer, who would that be and why? Um, well, I think, of course, Robert MacFarlane. I love his book Underland, and I would love to particularly like tromp through the Paris catacombs and that little forested area near London where he talked with Merlin Sheldrake. And of course, there are various deep like mines and other underground facilities that he explored. And I'm pretty sure a lot of his other work looks at other places, although I haven't read them yet. I would also perhaps maybe like to echo Shanti Sanfest's comment on Sir Richard Burton or Richard Francis Burton and others. Although, again, I'm not as familiar with real life adventure writing or even explorers, which is again something I ought to correct. Maybe for Victober. Well, I'll think about that. Question number 3. Where was the most romantic and or weirdest place you have read a book? What was that book? So really the weirdest place I've ever read a book, and I'm not entirely sure how weird it is because it's probably most of us will do it at some point or other, and that is I read a book in the hospital. Um, Over the past few years, my mom has had a number of health emergencies that has required her to go to the hospital, and I stay with her. And her most recent trip a few months ago, I stayed with her and I read King of the World by Philip Mansell. It's his big, massive biography of Louis the 14th, not Philip. Anyway, it's Louis the 14th. But as far as other romantic places, haven't really read, and like, I'm not well traveled, so the possibilities of unique or romantic places is virtually nil for me. Question number 4. If money was no object, what rare and/or signed adventure book, fiction or nonfiction, would you purchase? Probably a first edition or so of some works by Robert E. No. Well, Robert E. Howard. I would love to get some of his. Well, to be honest, I mean that would be picking up like old magazines. But like H. Rider Haggard, some of his earlier, some of the first editions of his work, I would like to get. Although I'm not as sort of precious about that in my book collecting as I am like newer copies, because I tend to, I would be, I think, a little too afraid to touch those older books. But I would like to get some, like say, H. Rider Haggard, probably some Richard Francis Burton, and others. But anyway, let's move on to prompt number 5. What place have you read about but never visited? Oh, practically everywhere, honestly. Name a few of your favorite titles. So I would go with let's see. Well, I mean, they're not adventure novels. Oh well, I guess I'd say King Solomon's Mines and Southern Africa. She, which is, and also which is more in like Northern Africa, like the Sudan, Ethiopia area. I would like to visit Egypt, although I can't think of any adventure novel, anything set in Egypt that's purely adventure. So yeah, it's like all over. Again, I'm not very well traveled, so. And finally, tag some fellow adventurers. So if you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged, and I will see you probably on Friday with weekly reads. The next few days are going to be a bit busy for me. I'll be this time tomorrow watching 4 Children of the Apocalypse, and on Friday I have a doctor's appointment, so I won't have much time to film a video until weekly reads on Friday night. So this will probably be in addition to weekly reads, the only video I have up. I had hoped to have another tag video up yesterday, but it didn't turn out. And given how many times I've tried to film that tag video, I think I'm just going to not do it and maybe do some more tag videos next week. But anyway, BookTube, that's all I've got for today. So thank you, BookTube. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.